Bonjour French students, bienvenue au vidéo 2 du chapitre 6. Can you believe we're already in chapter 6? So we are on the third of 4 chapters that we will study in French 102, and so we're already over the halfway point, and spring break is coming next week, so we're right on schedule. Okay, so the grammar vocabulary topic that we're going to be looking at in today's presentation is une invitation. And of course, this looks exactly like the English word, and many words that end in T-I-O-N in English are very similar in French. They might even have identical spelling. It's just that the pronunciation is different. If you've ever studied any Spanish, you would notice that there's a very similar pattern. Words that end in T-I-O-N in English often end in something similar in Spanish, maybe a C-I-O-N or something. Italian is also very similar too. So there's lots of patterns like this between all of our European languages. Okay, so to learn a little bit of vocabulary about maybe inviting somebody somewhere and giving a response to that invitation, we see that here in this first slide. So, pour inviter quelqu'un à sortir, vous pouvez dire. So, to invite someone to go out, pour inviter quelqu'un à sortir, vous pouvez dire, you can say. Okay, so maybe you're asking a friend, okay, à un ami or à une amie, depending on the person you're asking. So you might ask, tu veux? Okay, do you want? You might begin your invitation with tu voudrais, okay, would you like? You might also begin your invitation with je t'invite à, I invite you to. Okay, so these would be kind of the more informal ways of inviting a friend to go and do something with you. And you see in red lots of possibilities here. Okay, tu veux aller au théâtre, tu veux aller au cinéma, so either to go see a play or a movie. Tu veux aller à la plage, tu veux aller à l'université, do you want to go to the beach, to the university, to school? Tu veux aller au campus, to our campus. Okay, you might be a little more polite, and instead of saying tu veux, you could say tu voudrais. Maybe you'd use that form with somebody you know, but you're still getting to know a little bit. So, tu voudrais venir chez moi? Do you want to come to my place? Tu voudrais prendre un verre? Do you want to have a drink? Verre literally means glass, like a glass you drink from, so it's like to go have a glass of something. Tu voudrais faire du shopping? Do you want to go shopping? Okay, and finally, je t'invite à une fête d'anniversaire. So I invite you to a birthday party. And remember, anniversaire is kind of one of those false friends between English and French. I say false friend because it looks just like anniversary in English, but it means birthday in French. And a birthday actually is an anniversary of your birth, so it kind of makes sense. Okay. To use some somewhat more formal invitation questions, maybe à une autre personne ou à un groupe de personnes. So this could be a person maybe that you have a less familiar relationship with, maybe someone who has authority over you, like a boss or something, or a group of people. So maybe it's a group of people you know well, it just happens to be a group. So you could say, vous voulez boire quelque chose? Do you want to go drink something? Vous voudriez, so this is asking, would you like? So it's the difference between veut and voudrais up here with tu. That distinction is voulez and voudriez with vous. So vous voudriez boire un café? Would you like to go drink a coffee? Je voudrais vous inviter. I would like to invite you. Okay, je voudrais vous inviter au mariage de ma sœur. So here I already combined the preposition à with le to form au mariage. So I would like to invite you to my sister's wedding, to the marriage of my sister. All right, so lots of different ways to invite someone to do something with you. Okay, and there are, of course, ways that you can respond, okay? If you are accepting someone's invitation, okay, vous pouvez répondre, you can respond, or you can say, oui, je veux bien. Yes, I would like to. I'd really like to. Or nous voulons bien. Bien is kind of reinforcing the desire. Like I really want to do that. Or quelle bonne idée, avec plaisir. So what a great idea, with pleasure. D'accord, okay. It's like the French version of okay. Although people sometimes say okay in French too. If you ever had the chance to watch the Netflix series Call My Agent, that's one of the extra credit projects, you'd be amazed how many times the characters use the English expression okay in general conversation. I just made a note of that as I was watching it. Okay, if you wanted to suggest another activity, pour suggérer une autre activité, je préfère. So if somebody says to you, hey, or tu veux aller au cinéma? Non, je préfère aller au café. I would prefer to go to the cafe instead. Or j'aime mieux aller à la plage. Or I would like better to go to the beach instead. Or let's say, allons plutôt à, or let's go instead to, so it's like saying we instead. We could do this instead. All right, and finally, if you don't want to go, you could say, je regrette, mais, so I regret it, I'm sorry about it, but je regrette, mais je ne veux pas aller au cinéma. No. Or je regrette, mais je ne peux pas. I cannot. Nous regrettons, mais. So we regret it, but. Je ne suis pas libre. I'm not free. Nous ne sommes pas libres. We're not free. Je ne peux pas. Je ne peux vraiment pas. So I can't or I really can't. Nous ne pouvons pas, nous ne pouvons vraiment pas. So saying the same thing for us rather than I. Je dois étudier. I have to study. It's a good way to get out of not going somewhere, I guess. Or je suis occupé. I am busy. Okay, so to give you a chance to practice saying one of these things, let's imagine, just for a second, that I am going to invite you somewhere, and you can either respond and say yes, using the je forms of all these expressions. You could suggest another activity, or you could say no. Okay, so let's say this is going to be my question to you, and let's go back actually over here and decide which form we're going to use. So I'm just going to say tu voudrais. All right, so let's go ahead and put that text box back in there. Okay, so tu voudrais aller prendre un café avec moi ce soir. Okay, so I'm asking you, would you like to go have a coffee with me this evening? And you can choose any response you like to that. You won't hurt my feelings if you say no, or if you suggest another activity. So to answer that question, you could say, oui, je veux bien aller prendre un café. Or you could say, quelle bonne idée. Or you could say, j'aime mieux aller au cinéma. Or you could say, je préfère aller au parc pour courir. Or you could say, you might refuse me altogether, and you might say, je regrette, mais je ne suis pas libre. Or je ne peux pas. Or je regrette, mais je ne peux vraiment pas. Or je dois étudier, or je suis occupé. So you can come up with any of those excuses. So all you have to do is give a one-sentence answer to my invitation. You can either type that response or you can say it. And finally, the last thing we need to know about extending and accepting invitations is about time. How do people express time? You would have learned in French 101, whether you studied that at Lander or maybe in high school or another college, you probably learned about telling time in French. I can say il est 10 heures, it is 10 o'clock, or il est 1h30, it is 1:30. Okay, so you probably learned the basics of telling time. But the thing is that after 12 o'clock, like in the afternoon, from 12 o'clock noon all the way up to midnight, people often use what we call l'heure officielle, especially for like any sort of timetables, schedules. You're going to see l'heure officielle, or what we would call in English military time. So, les Français utilisent l'heure officielle pour tous les horaires. So, for all of the schedules. Le train, le cinéma, les heures d'ouverture. So, the times that businesses and stores and things like that open. So, you're going to see that military time very often. I remember when I was traveling in France years ago, going through train stations, visiting different parts of the country, or even going to other countries, that military time or l'heure officielle it's everywhere. There's no AM and PM distinction really. Okay, so pour lire l'heure officielle, on utilise uniquement des nombres. So it uses only numbers. We don't, for these kinds of situations, we're not going to add like de l'après-midi or du matin or du soir like you would with telling time in le temps familier. So that would be familiar time. And you see like here, l'heure familière. So 0h05, that would be the official time, and that's right after midnight. And the like l'heure familière, what people might say in maybe more informal settings would be minuit 5. So it's like 12:05. Or 1h15, so that would be 1 o'clock or 1:15, let's say. And if it's in the morning, it would be 1h15 du matin. So it's like 1 hour and a quarter in the morning, du matin. Okay, and then as we're proceeding with the time, 12h20, and that would be 12:20 in the afternoon. So midi 20. So remember, midi refers to noon. So it would be like 12:20 p.m. for us. Okay, then we move on to what looks more like military time or l'heure officielle to our eyes. So 13h30. So 13:30. And that's like 13 o'clock, 13:30. And in familiar time, it would be 1h30 de l'après-midi. So you would have to add après-midi in order to make it clear that you're talking about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But with the military time or l'heure officielle, that's not necessary because 13 or 13 already indicates that we're talking about the afternoon, right after 12 o'clock noon. As we move into the evening, what would normally be 9h moins 20, so that's like 9 o'clock minus 20 in the evening, that's 8:40, or in military time, it would be 20h40. So basically 12 plus 8 gets you 40, and then, or 20, and then you add on your 40 minutes. So 20h40. And you could say, of course, 20h45, so 20:45, and that's 8:45 in the evening. In familiar time, it would be 9h moins le quart, so it's like 9 o'clock minus 15 in the evening. Okay, so that gives you an overview of what military time looks like. So if you're meeting somebody for maybe catching a train, or you're going to the movies and the times are given in a timetable in l'heure officielle or military time, you know what it's referring to, or the times that business is open. But if you're just speaking with friends maybe, or with family members, you might sometimes use the more familiar form of telling time. Okay, so that gives you lots of new vocabulary to be able to talk about invitations, to be able to go places and meet up with friends. So someday after this pandemic is over, I hope you get to use all this vocabulary by traveling to a French-speaking country. So, au revoir!